Hello everyone, this is Ajisha, Assistant Professor, Department of Management Studies, Rohini College of Engineering and Technology. This topic deals with GST and the documentations. So on completion, students will be able to explain the basic concepts of GST, understand the documentations in GST. So what is GST first of all? It is known as the Goods and Services Tax. Value added tax on most goods and services sold for domestic consumption. The GST is paid by the consumer, but it is remitted to the government by the businesses selling the goods and services. The goods and services is an indirect tax that is applied to the cost of certain goods and services. France is the first country to implement the GST in 1954. GST in India. It was first implemented on 1st July 2017. In 2000, Prime Minister of India introduced the concept of goods and services tax, but it took 17 more years for its implementation. Objectives of GST: one nation, one tax, to subsume indirect taxes in India, to restrain tax evasion. Documentation under GST. Every registered person must also maintain relevant documents including tax invoice, bills and supply, delivery credit note, debit note, receipt vouchers, payment vouchers, refund vouchers and e-bills, e-way bills. The documents which are elaborated are as follows: tax invoice, credit note, debit note. So let us see them one by one. Tax invoice is a document issued by a seller to a buyer detailing the goods or services sold, the amount charged for them, details of the two parties and the applicable taxes. Tax invoice as per section 31 means issuance of invoice or a bill of supply for every supply of goods or services or both. It is necessary for a person supplying goods or services or both to issue invoice. For example, if a registered person is making or receiving supplies, then a tax invoice needs to be issued by such registered person. So these are the contents in tax invoice: name and address of goods and service tax, identification number of the supplier, consecutive serial number not exceeding 16 characters, date of its issue, harmonized system of nomenclature code for goods and services, etc. So time limit for issuing tax invoice. As per Rule 47, tax invoice referred to in Rule 46 of CGST rules, it shall be issued within a period of 30 days from the date of the supply of service. Credit note is a document issued by a registered taxpayer to adjust or reduce a tax liability due to errors or omissions in the original tax invoice. The buyer might be able to use a credit note to offset any outstanding balance or use it for new purchases. Example: a supplier issued a tax invoice to a buyer for rupees 10,000 but later discovered that they had overcharged by rupees 500 at GST. To correct the error, the supplier issued the buyer a rupees 500 credit note which was deducted from the buyer's tax liability. When to issue a credit note? Goods returned due to quality issues, defects or service rejection. Higher charges collected from buyers. After sales buyer discount. To maintain goodwill and the seller-buyer relationships remain strong and transparent. Time limit of credit note. It has to be issued not later than September, follow the end of the financial year in which supply is made. Debit note is a document used by a vendor to inform the buyer of current debt obligations. The debit note can provide information regarding upcoming invoice or service as a reminder for funds currently due. For returned items, notes will include the total anticipated credit and inventory of the returned items. This debit note is a document created by a buyer when returning goods received on credit. How it works? A debit note is generally used in business-to-business transactions. These transactions often involve an extension of credit, which means that a vendor sends a shipment of goods to a company before the buyer's cost is paid. Debit note features. Debit note may look different based on the issuer, but there are a few distinct components that every vendor includes on those documents: date, seller's name and address, buyer's name and address, name and description of goods, price of goods, total cost of the order. So these are the difference between credit note and debit note. Hope this video benefits you. Thank you.